of the main challenges that face the South African government is poverty and inequality.
We need to ensure that we have evidence-based policy making.
There are very few institutions in the country that focuses on ensuring that the communication of research.
The PSPPD was started in 2006, and essentially what we were trying to do was to increase the use of research evidence and other evidence in policy making.
It has been fortuitous that the PSPPD has been running in the presidency at the same time as the Department of Performance Monitoring and Evaluation was established.
And when we talk about policy making, we mean both in terms of developing particular policies as well as the implementation thereof, and then also the evaluation of these policies.
It's important for us to ensure effective implementation of policies that we do effective research as well.
The whole process of doing evidence-informed policy making is actually about having an exchange between researchers and policymakers.
Our department and the PSPPD share the same goals. Both also have the aim of ensuring that evidence and data is used to inform policy making and the design of programs.
PSPPD they are champions of evidence-based policy making, and the HSRC, as one of the biggest generators of social science data, is definitely keen on evidence-based policy making.
Limpopo is about 90% in rural. So there are aspects from the GCRO that we can use to develop the Limpopo Research Observatory.
The HSRC is particularly focused on ensuring that our policy meets the priorities of the country or of government.
The GCR Observatory, I think, is an effective model in that it institutionalizes that relationship between policymakers and researchers. Also, it's a partnership between the universities, two anchor institutions, University of Witwatersrand and University of Johannesburg, together with Gauteng government and local government in Gauteng. So it's a partnership that works.
One can think of the Child Support Grant, which was introduced in 1998, which in fact has been one of our most successful programs in government in terms of addressing poverty. But it's very important as the government that we know who the poor people are in South Africa and where the poor people are.
PSPPD has provided a range of interventions. One was the pre-doctoral program, a mentorship program for female researchers. It is very important because that is a targeted group where we're hoping to increase the number of female researchers overall in the country.
In fact, some of the research that was done by using the NIDS
newsletters which come out every 2 months and which give case studies and examples of policy making processes.
Then on the training and capacity building component, we have done extensive work around introducing policymakers as well as researchers to new methodologies, particularly around systematic reviews and rapid evidence assessments, which is essentially about how one synthesizes research.
ECD provision has sort of evolved in different ways. Government introducing one or two specific reforms, like the Grade R reforms, where government is aiming at universalization, and the per child subsidy for 0 to 4. Now, because of experiences in implementation, because of gaps that have emerged in implementation, the time has come that everybody feels ready for an evaluation.
It is important for us to assess whether the policy initiative that had begun so many years ago is paying dividends. Is the policy working? Is the reality reflecting what the policy intentions were? And so it's important to reflect on whether we have been going on the right path, whether what the work we've been doing, the investments we've been making are paying off. We want to understand the conditions under which children are experiencing ECD. We want to see whether the work that we're doing in ECD is making a difference to the lives of children.
The evaluation is basically it's using research methodologies, but for a particular use. So you're trying to look at how a policy or a program or a plan or a project has performed, or you're trying to look at a current situation to see what is the situation now before you design a policy, a plan or a program.
Policy development, evaluation, monitoring, research, creating of evidence, creating of new research evidence, of new knowledge, it takes time.
If we don't reflect on how our initiatives, our interventions are performing, we will never improve them. And research, for example, that Chile conducted found that 51% of its programs needed major redesign. Now, if we don't go into an evaluative process, we will not discover that. That means many of our programs will not perform. They will be wasting money, be wasting opportunities for improving services for our people.
Investment in ECD contributes a big way in achieving intergenerational change, intergenerational poverty reduction. ECD becomes very important in that.
The platforms that we create is conducive for critical engagement, and I think that's particularly useful. I think what the EU has also recognized is that we've run a successful program, but that it was very limited time within which to implement, and really what we should be doing in the next phase is to consolidate the work that we've started in phase 1.
The most important challenge for the PSPPD in phase 2 is to increase its focus on the challenge of changing the culture in the public service so that evidence and research is actually used more.
The European Union is interested in supporting this project in a second phase. Within the presidency, we now have quite an organised structure with two particular wings. One, the National Planning Commission, looking to the future and trying to do the long-term planning that I think is needed in South Africa. And the second element being the Department for Performance Monitoring and Evaluation, that's trying to assess the way in which policies are being implemented and whether they're having an impact.
In phase 2, the overarching theme will remain poverty and inequality, and essentially what the objective really is to continue to increase the use of evidence and research evidence in the policy making process so that we contribute to the government's goals.
I think first and foremost researchers as well need to be more aware and be trained on the policy development processes so that they know, because there's a close relationship. The evidence that they generate and the research questions that they have is because of some policy gaps. Because more often than not, there's a serious gap between the two. Researchers get obsessed with their own methodological issues and processes of research, yet the answers and the information that they need to collect needs to begin to feed and advance some of the policies or assist us as government reviews so that we improve the lives of the people.
Through research, we can actually be better informed and therefore respond to these challenges.